First off, let me start by saying that I'm shaking things up and I'm changing the format of my weekly Raw review. I'm incorporating, if you remember the old OTRS triple threat style, I'm incorporating that into the Raw review because let's face it, most week on Raw, there's only maybe 2 to 3 things that are really truly worth devoting any time to. So instead of spending a bunch of time talking about a bunch of filler crap and a bunch of things that you guys really don't care about, and frankly, I don't really care about, I'd like to devote more time to those things, those events, those happenings, those storylines that do matter to you and do matter and interest me. So that's what I'm going to be doing from here on going forward. I hope you guys like this new Raw review format. We'll see how it goes. I'll tinker with it, try to make it better as I keep doing it week by week. I definitely have to admit that the first 30 plus minutes of Raw this week were outstanding television. One of the best starts to Raw, whether it be 2-hour format, 3-hour format, that I've seen in quite a long time. Now, let me start off by saying this, is that John Cena, being your company's World Heavyweight Champion, elevates the profile of that belt so many times over compared to anybody else. And that's the absolute God's honest truth. I mean, who would you rather have as your World Heavyweight Champion from a business perspective and standpoint? Alberto Del Rio, a Damien Sandow, or a John Felix Anthony Cena? Come on, if you really think about it, if your bread had to be buttered by your world champions, you're going to put your eggs in the John Cena basket, whether you like the guy or not, whether you like him as a fan or not. And I get a lot of the frustration about John Felix Anthony Cena. It's understandable. It's understandable. But it's a lot easier to judge it on the outside when your bills aren't the ones that have to be paid in the WWE. And if you are running the WWE, you know to a certain degree and a certain level at least that John Cena can deliver enough goods to pay enough bills for you to be able to keep the investors and shareholders happy and profit every year. And that's a fact. Just think about it. John Cena being the World Heavyweight Champion, the first thing you see on Raw. I mean, this is a big deal. John Cena's back. Now, could you argue maybe he came back too early? Or, of course, Super Cena, they threw him right into the world title picture and they've given him the belt? Yeah, but like I talked about in the Hell in a Cell review, you should understand and you should know by now that the WWE has 2 primary motivations when it comes to John Cena. And this maybe is more important to them than anything else that they're doing as a company. Number one, that is they're going to have him not only break, but probably smash Ric Flair's record of 16 world championships. That's coming. What's he at, 14 now? It's coming. He's going to have at least 20 by the time his career is over. And number 2, you know deep down, because of Cena's loyalty to the company and all the good charitable things and everything else that he's done over the years, and the ability to be able to count on him in a main event spot year after year after year, Vince McMahon and the WWE are going to do everything they possibly can over the next 4 to 6 years to try and make the best argument they possibly can that John Cena is the greatest WWE superstar of all time. So if you understand the backdrop and you understand the perspective that the WWE comes from here, it's a little bit easier to understand things. It's a little bit easier to absorb them. It makes them a little more palpable. Doesn't mean you have to love them, but it does make it a little more palpable. Look, you knew at some point in time they were going to have Damien Sandow have to cash in this Money in the Bank. Now, you have actually had a really, really, really good match. I thought Cena and Del Rio were the better of the 2 World Championship matches at Hell in a Cell. And this match here, Cena and Sandow, was really damn good. This was a big spot, a big moment, a big opportunity for a Damien Sandow. It really was. This goes back to like the Raw 1000 episode when he's in the ring with DX at the beginning of the show. That didn't bury him. That elevated his profile tremendously. And now you know that Sandow in the ring with Cena in a big-time spot fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship. That's a big, huge spot for a Damien Sandow. And in one sense, it definitely elevates his profile. I mean, in that match right there, you could actually picture maybe Damien Sandow as a legit world champion, whereas before, he didn't feel like that because the WWE has this obsession. Once a guy wins Money in the Bank, they have nothing really mapped out for him, and they just send him out there to job at random times. However, I do understand a lot of the frustration and angst over the fact that a one-armed Cena beat a two-armed, healthy Damien Sandow. I get it. Maybe it was one of these things where Sandow wasn't quite ready for prime time yet, and he probably wasn't. Maybe it was one of these things where you wanted to get the briefcase off of him because maybe you have better things to do with him down the road, and that could be the case as well. Or maybe you feel like maybe you made a little bit of a mistake putting the briefcase on Sandow, and that might be the case as well, even though I don't necessarily agree with that. However, on the one hand, while this match may have raised Sandow's profile and elevated him a little bit, on the other hand, how are you supposed to be able to take a guy seriously when he couldn't beat a effectively one-armed John Cena, who just wrestled an intense World Heavyweight Championship match the night before against Alberto Del Rio? This, to me, you could have sat there and had Sandow fail to cash in by maybe winning via countout or disqualification or whatever the case might be. But, before the match started, Sandow obliterated that arm. He destroyed that arm. But yet Cena was still able to go out there and have a full fucking match? And Sandow ends up losing? It's no wonder, for all the shit I can give my fellow cohorts on the internet, it's no wonder sometimes why fans on the internet get so pissed off about some of the shit that the WWE does. You could have arrived at a certain result, which was Sandow failing to be able to cash in successfully, and done it a different way, in my opinion. This, to me, kind of makes Sandow look stupid. He couldn't beat a one-armed John Cena, so at some point in time, how am I ever supposed to believe that he could beat a fully healthy, raring to go, two-armed John Cena? Really think about that for a second. And for those of you that are sitting there and getting on other internet fans and saying, oh, you should have known, this didn't do anything to bury Sandow, I disagree. It did a little bit. He couldn't beat the guy with one good arm. How the fuck is he ever going to beat him with two good arms? It may have raised his profile a little bit, but then it also kind of underhandedly buried him a little bit. It just felt like it was unnecessary. It just felt like the WWE couldn't help themselves. We don't need any more reminders of the greatness of John Cena. We get him on a week-in, week-out basis. He just wrestled Alberto Del Rio. Mind you, his first match in almost 2.5 months where he exhibited very little to no ring rust, which when you look at it if you're looking at it from a sports world perspective, you would have rust. You would have instances where you're not sharp. You might actually lose your comeback match or game or whatever the case might be. But now with John Cena, he plows right through Alberto Del Rio. He plows right through Damien Sandow. And it gets to the point of, why do you even ever bother having John Cena wrestle any matches? Because you always get the same result. He's going to win in some type of super scintillating, spectacular fashion. That's the way it feels to a lot of fans, and that's the way the WWE has presented it. At this point, you might as well not even have him wrestle anybody. Just have him walk around with the World Heavyweight Championship. And when he's bored with it, just give it to somebody. And then when he's ready to win it, have him win it back in a match. Because otherwise, who the fuck else is going to beat him without having to go through some intricate, multiple levels of bullshit? If you really think about it. However, at the same point in time, the WWE does have something good here because John Cena being the World Heavyweight Champion, whether we like to admit it or not, is definitely much better for business for both Raw and SmackDown. For the first time in quite a while, I thought I might have actually witnessed on Raw this week some evidence of layered, multi-tiered storytelling. And it impressed me. Look at what happened between Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels. Daniel Bryan made Shawn Michaels tap. Now, Shawn Michaels made him work for it. He didn't tap instantly, of course, because he's the Heartbreak Kid. Hands off the merchandise, ladies. But he made Shawn Michaels tap. That is a big deal. Not everybody would make a Shawn Michaels tap. Ask Bret Hart, okay? Think about that. So Daniel Bryan makes a Shawn Michaels tap. Retired or not, doesn't matter. Shawn Michaels is still Shawn Michaels. But then his night isn't over. He gets attacked backstage by the Wyatt family, who go on later on in the night to attack CM Punk. All the while, you've got Kane basically giving himself to the McMahon family, it looks like, by surrendering his mask and saying, this is good for business, and the monster is yours to unleash. And then you've got the Wyatt family talking about the devil made him do it. Bray Wyatt saying the devil made me do it, So you might be setting up something here where the Wyatt family is going to slowly transition into the Shield's old spot and become the McMahon's kind of hired primary henchman, where they're also maybe led by Kane, not Bray Wyatt. There's all types of possibilities here. And you're also at the same time setting up a Survivor Series match of the Wyatt family and maybe Kane, maybe, versus, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and The Miz. That's a pretty big traditional Survivor Series tag match. That's a good thing. If you want to make Survivor Series a big deal, which I think the WWE does, which they know deep down inside, they've pissed it down their leg with Survivor Series in recent years, and they know it's one of their big four. It's their second ever major pay-per-view. It's major pay-per-view at the WrestleMania. Not technically the second ever pay-per-view. The second major one, though, that has had this staying power. This is what? Going to be the 27th Survivor Series. They need to reinvigorate that pay-per-view. They need to inject some life into it. And as a result, coming up with a big-time Survivor Series traditional style tag match like this with a hot gimmick like the Wyatt family, with some stars in there like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, that is good for business. And like I said, it left so many possibilities of where they could go. You could have Daniel Bryan feuding with Bray Wyatt. You could have CM Punk going off and feuding with Bray Wyatt. You could have Kane being behind all of this, and as a result, he's sending the Wyatts after Daniel Bryan because he's jealous of Daniel Bryan, so Daniel Bryan goes back at Kane. There are a lot of possibilities here, and it kind of impressed me because I'm like, geez, they left the door open to do a lot of different things. And all at the same time, I think it was very interesting to see how the Shield are starting to maybe be pushed a little bit to the side. I don't know if they're going to set up some type of split between the Shield relatively soon. Maybe it's not quite time to do it just yet. Maybe wait a little closer to WrestleMania. Are they maybe transitioning to set up something between the Shield and the Wyatt family? Have the Wyatt family take the Shield's place? And maybe the Shield work as baby faces, which might be the better course of action at this point? Perhaps. But it is kind of interesting, isn't it? How they're starting to be, pushed aside slowly but surely, and there's being more emphasis placed on the Wyatt family right now. Of course, for me, the thing I was looking forward to the most was the end of the show. The end of the show. Not because Raw this week was bad. I actually thought this was a pretty good Raw. Damn near a spectacular Raw that gave me some big-time things. Just in general, it was very good television this week, actually, especially compared to the Seahawks-Rams Monday Night Football game. That's for damn sure. But the main event was going to be all about Randall Keith Orton's WWE Championship celebration. And how dare the Big Show interrupt, damn it. Shit. I had a feeling they were going here with this crap. So let me guess. We're going to get like Big Show versus Randy Orton. Ugh, at Survivor Series. Ugh. But you could also be setting up, to be fair, something between Big Show and Triple H, whether that be maybe at TLC, whether that be maybe at the Royal Rumble. So you've still left yourself some avenues and some possibilities here in what direction you could go. It's just like with Daniel Bryan choking out Shawn Michaels, making him tap. That's, not only is he involved with the Wyatt family, looks like at the moment, you've still left open the door at some point for him to do some business, do a small program in terms of a match at a big pay-per-view with a Triple H. Again, something that's good for Daniel Bryan. As far as Randy Orton versus the Big Show, you have to understand that the WWE's perspective, ratings have kind of been in the shithole during the NFL season. Worse than they have been for many years. They can only use the football excuse so much. They can only use it so much. You still have to generate a certain level of rating to justify the money that the sponsors are giving, all this other stuff. So, when these type of things happen, you're going to play it a little safe. You're going to go with the known commodity, the proven commodity, with the bit of a name, which is what the Big Show has. That's not an insult to Daniel Bryan, nor does that necessarily mean that Daniel Bryan is being buried, because let's face it, the WWE is doing all they can to not bury the Wyatt family. They're in fact trying to elevate these guys. So, Daniel Bryan's not really dropping that far off of the title radar. But Randy Orton versus Big Show, they've devoted some time to this Big Show angle. At some point the crowd's really going to go nuts, like they were going nuts for this segment, when we get the inevitable return of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, which, remind you again, the whole thing between Daniel Bryan and Triple H and Randall Keith Orton and da-da-da is ultimately all just plot filler and plot devices to set up an ongoing feud that is coming between Vince McMahon and Triple H. However they get to that moment, however they decide to further along that moment, doesn't matter. That's what this is ultimately all about. Still with WrestleMania in mind. So you have to understand that. Big Show, the little thing with Otunga earlier talking about the lawsuit, I thought this is great. Hell, I think Otunga should be escorting Big Show around, being his attorney, advising him what he should do and what he can't do, what will jeopardize the lawsuit and what will help his lawsuit. He should be doing all that crap. I thought it was interesting they had Big Show, instead of coming out from the crowd, they played his music and had him walk out from the back. That almost insinuates that he's been rehired, and we might get next week the higher power, if you will. So in general, not a lot for me to complain about Raw this week. I thought it made for very, very good television. I get all the angst and frustration with the Super Cena crap. I get it. But, at the same point in time, when you look at John Cena, he's a really good world heavyweight champion for that company. One of the best ones, obviously, they could possibly have. You could argue, obviously, that he's the best world heavyweight champion that they can have. He's good for business on Raw. He's good for business on SmackDown. He's good for business at the pay-per-views. He's good for business at the merchandise tables. He's good for business in just about every way you can imagine. Did they necessarily need to have Damien Sandow lose to him clean when Cena only had one healthy arm? No, I don't think that does a whole lot to help Sandow. It did elevate his profile a little bit, only to kind of underhandedly bury him a little bit. And as far as the Wyatt family being prominently featured more and the Shield maybe going on the back burner, like I said, it's that layered multi-tier storytelling that I haven't gotten from the WWE in years, and maybe they are actually finally going to give me some of that.